Hi there. In this video, we will look at the summaries of each chapter of The Mark by Edyth Bulbring. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book, you should probably go and do that first. Chapter 1 is titled The Monster. In Chapter 1, we see Handler Xavier causing panic on the beach so that everyone flees and their belongings can be stolen by Kitty and Juliet. A locust then attempts to stop Kitty, but Edyth saves her by distracting him and pretending to have a seizure. We see that Edyth actually cares deeply and is protective over Kitty. Edyth wears many masks, and she pretends to be someone that she isn't. She wears a mask of distress and a mask of a nobody. After the curfew siren, Edyth returns to Section O, which is Section Orphanage, in Slum City, where she shares a room with Kitty. Juliet cares deeply about Kitty but doesn't show it. We also learn that Kitty cannot fake things. She wears her heart on her sleeve and doesn't wear any masks, or so we believe. Handler Xavier uses the orphans to make money in the game by stealing. Handler Xavier takes the credits they have stolen and tells them to take the items to Cowboy in the market to sell for credits. Edyth hides a book she stole under a paver, a paving stone, which is her secret place. Then we see Chapter 2, which is titled Cowboy. Cowboy is a smuggler or illicit dealer and is described as a thief that steals from thieves. After Edyth sells the stolen goods to Cowboy, she buys mango and water for herself and Kitty, before she goes to the Mootinag witch to collect bug juice, a fermented drink for the orphanage. Mistress Hardydaw is Witch's pet bird, and she appears to be very scary. She insults Edyth and threatens her with Savage City, a prison. Mootinags damage the eyes of the Hardydaws to make them go blind so that their telling senses increase. Witch and Nelson, an unfamiliar man, are playing Scrabble and discover that Edyth can read when she rearranges the letter tiles. Once Edyth is out of the room, Witch and Nelson discuss whether Edyth could be the one the tellers speak of. After giving the bug juice to the orphan warden, who then feeds it to the babies at night to make them sleep right through, Edyth checks the cots and shows compassion towards the babies by tucking them in and assuring them that things will be better in the morning. Back to her room, she applies a harsh chemical cream to the numbers on her spine. She is trying to remove the number, and then she reads Peter Pan. Kitty has disappeared but returns after sunrise. Chapter 3, Drudge School. Kitty arrives home under the influence of bug juice, which is their equivalent to alcohol. Her designated trade is a pleasure worker at the Posh clubs. Kitty goes with Handler Xavier to the parade, and Edyth goes to school where she learns to be a drudge. Edyth looks like a Posh because her skin is unusually fair and she calls it pus-colored. She uses this to her advantage when stealing in the game. Then she pretends to be a Posh in order to steal from them. Edyth cares about Kitty but does not approve of Kitty's actions. For example, Edyth scolds Kitty because she was drunk and says she could have been caught by the localists. Edyth hates school because she does not want to be a drudge, which is ultimately her fate. She hates that the machine allocates trades to people. Edyth is intelligent enough to question the system, and she wants to escape it. Edyth tries to be invisible at school because she wants to avoid getting into trouble. She avoids making friends because she doesn't trust anyone. She tries to be a model student, and she behaves in a way that makes her teacher believe that she has been suitably trained to accept her role as a drudge. We also see that Slum City is divided into different sections. Section AR stands for Attitude Readjustment. Section O stands for Orphanage. Section PT stands for Past Traders. And Section F stands for Section Families. Chapter 4, Reader. In this chapter, Edyth goes to Mangaria City to visit the Beautiful Like Me beauty parlor, where she steals more cream to apply to her mark. The beauty parlor is owned by a character named Me. Edyth has a surface-level relationship with him. He lets her stay in his parlor to avoid the locusts if she misses curfew. After stealing the acid cream, Edyth makes her way up the stairs to the beauty parlor to visit a character by the name of Reader. Reader is an old blind man who taught Edyth to read when she was just 9 years old. She brings him books in exchange for reading time or reading lessons. Reader appears to be happy to see Juliet, but Juliet does not appear to care. Reader delights in Juliet's company, but does not make it obvious to her. He makes her read to him while he pretends to sleep on the couch. He accepts any book she brings him, even if he already owns a few copies of the same book. He continually makes her tell him how and when their relationship started. Edyth does not realize that Reader enjoys being around her and instead thinks he is keeping their relationship strictly business. Edyth steals a book from Reader's library and is caught when it drops to the floor in front of Reader. In that moment, Edyth realizes that Reader is actually blind. He pretends not to know that she stole his book and instead tells her to be safe as she goes home. As Edyth approaches the boom to return to the orphanage, she pretends to have sun sickness so that no one touches her. She is hiding the stolen cream and book under her shirt. A locust tries to stop her and grabs her shoulder. She drops the cream while walking, and he picked it up and gave it back to her. In Chapter 5, Posh Trouble, Edyth is reminded of a time when she and Kitty were smalls and Kitty refused to drink bug juice before bed. She said it was because it stopped her from dreaming. She was the only small who was conscious while sleeping. Xavier and Juliet head to the square, the Posh entertainment area, to play the game. Juliet pretends to be a Posh. She looks like a Posh because of her light-colored skin. She wears sunglasses to cover her cow eyes, as they will give her identity as a savage away. By acting like a Posh, it becomes easier to steal from one. Handler Xavier sells fake toys that appear to dance to music. He tries to pass them off as magic. The truth is nearly exposed when a Posh boy begins asking too many questions about the toys. Edyth, who is disguised as a Posh, saves the game by purchasing multiple toys, which encourages the crowd to do the same. The Posh boy watches Edyth and tries to find out her name. His name is Nicholas. Nicholas finds Edyth attractive, and she feels the same way about him. She runs away before she tells him her name. Chapter 6, The Festival. This festival is a mass marriage ceremony. Everyone attends the festival and no one works on this day. At the age of 16, people are assigned to their fate mates. Fate mates are predetermined by the marks on their spines. Posh only marry Posh. Traders only marry traders. The Mangarians are excluded from the festival as they decide whom their children marry within the Mangarian circle. Once married, if you give birth to an unhealthy baby, it will be thrown onto the reject dumps to die. There is a drama at the festival this year. A Posh is causing trouble. He hesitates and cannot marry his fate mate. Instead, he searches the crowd. And at that moment, a girl in the crowd collapses and clutches her stomach. These two individuals have been intimate. This is against the law. And the girl and the boy both get carried away by the locusts. The girl will be forced to go down the river, which means to abort her baby. Once her child is born, it will be thrown into the river and the problem will be gone. Eddie meets Nicholas at the festival again. They arrange to have a date next Sunday at the Tree Museum. Chapter 7, The Riot. A riot has broken out in the streets, and this is the perfect opportunity for Eddie and Kitty to steal. Kitty and Eddie get separated during the riot. The three individuals who started the riot are caught by the locusts and are publicly arrested by the locust warden. The one prisoner's back is temporarily exposed and no mark is seen. Eddie discovers this phenomenon. They are accused of A. Starting a fire in the food market, and B. Burning down the Tree Museum in Mangaria City. A character by the name of Cockroach, who is the head of the locusts, approaches the locust warden and whispers something in his ear. After this, the locust warden becomes more harsh towards the accused and hypes the crowd to anger. There is underhandedness, and it is clear that Cockroach wants to get rid of the prisoners. The accused are then trampled to death by the crowd once the locusts leave them exposed. The fire reminds Eddie of the beginning of her relationship with Kitty. There was a fire in the orphanage when they were still smalls. Juliet was fast asleep as she consumed bug juice. Kitty tried saving Eddie from the fire, while Handler Xavier tried to stop her. Eventually, Kitty saved Eddie, but she was badly burnt and scarred in the process. This is why Eddie feels as if she owes Kitty her life. After the riot had died down, Eddie sees Nelson, Witch's friend, and a few others enter a building very suspiciously. She realizes something is going on and she wants to know what it is. Chapter 8, The Experiment. Eddie is curious to know what they are doing, so she climbs across the rooftops and settles on the roof of their building to lip read. She sits by an open window and is able to hear what is being said. The three prisoners from the riot were part of an organization of resistance fighters, the rebel movement. They were taken to Savage City to be incarcerated. The laboratory erased their marks and told their parents that they had died, but they actually used them for human experiments. Experiments are conducted in pairs. The prisoners escaped from the laboratory and tried to draw attention to themselves by creating the riot, so that people will come to know what is really going on. The prisoners then became a liability to the Mangarians, and the locust warden was given orders by Cockroach to start the stampede and leave them exposed. This is how they were killed. The people inside the room ask for a volunteer who will be willing to get arrested and sent to the laboratory for experiments. They can then find out how the Mangarians are removing the mark, as well as gather more information about the experiments being conducted in the laboratory. Eddie discovers that everything she knows is wrong. The people around her have been deceiving her since the beginning of time. They have been part of the secret organization the entire time. The members of the organization include Nelson, Handler Xavier, Witch, the criminal's parents, and Kitty. Kitty volunteers to enter the laboratory and find information. Mistress Hardydar squawks while aiming at the window. She's the one. She is actually referring to Eddie. And the people in the room automatically assume that Kitty is the one who will save them all. Handler Xavier and Nelson discuss who will join Kitty. Juliet realizes that Kitty has been leading a double life the entire time. She has been the one in a permanent mask, and Eddie had no idea. Kitty is then described as the mistress of the mask. Chapter 9, Graduation. Juliet has been watching Kitty's every move since discovering her role in the secret organization. The days have become unbearably hot, and the traders are suffering in the heat. The Posh escape the heat by fleeing to the pleasure resorts along the coast where it is cooler. On the night before graduation, Juliet remembers that she can find more information about Kitty in the orphan warden's filing cabinet. All the records of the children in her care are in this cabinet. Eddie makes the following discoveries. Kitty's name is Catherine Seven, and she was taken away from her parents when she was 4 years old. They were declared unfit when they committed treason against the state for organizing a protest against the Fate Mate Festival. They tried to escape from Savage City and were sentenced to death. They were then eaten by the rats. Kitty was sent to Section AR for 2 months at the age of 7 because she refused to dance at school. They broke both her legs and tortured her until she agreed to obey the system. Kitty changed after this incident and was no longer affectionate towards Eddie. She lost her innocence and was hungry for vengeance. Eddie's file says her parents left her at the door of the orphanage and walked away. It is the day of their graduation, and Eddie receives her certificate. Eddie decides to visit the tree museum in the hopes of seeing a sign of life. Eddie discovers a tree that was completely burnt in the fire, as well as Mistress Hardydar's hidden nest. She promises not to tell Witch about it, as she will blind the chicks and make them tellers. Chapter 10, The Plan. Eddie tries to convince Kitty to open up, but Kitty shuts her down every time. Before Eddie and Kitty leave Section O forever, Handler Xavier demands that they steal for him one last time. They are going to steal from the Posh in the pleasure resorts. While Kitty is stealing, she sends a signal by tapping a number. Juliet goes to the room number that Kitty signaled to her but cannot find her anywhere. Eddie searches the hallways and hears Kitty scream from the floor above. Eddie sees Kitty being held by a servant by the name of Festus IV. He is a servant of the Posh man that Kitty was trying to steal from. Festus is violently assaulting Eddie and Kitty. Nicholas then walks in and tries to stop him. He lies to the man and tells him that they are his cousins, but Festus IV does not believe him. Nicholas creates opportunity for Juliet to escape before the locusts arrive. He is left behind with Kitty. Eddie finds Handler Xavier outside and he is furious that she left Kitty behind. He tries to get her arrested, but she runs away. Handler Xavier tried to get Eddie arrested so that she would be Kitty's partner in crime, the second volunteer. But Eddie was scared and left Kitty behind instead of staying and fighting. Kitty purposefully tapped the incorrect number so that Eddie would go to the wrong room and would not see her getting arrested. Kitty tried to protect Eddie. Nicholas protected Eddie by creating an opportunity for her to run from the locusts. The locusts took Kitty away. Eddie rushes back to Section O to retrieve her belongings. She goes to see Reader but discovers that he was found and taken to Section PT, and his books were also taken by the locusts. Chapter 11, The Drudges. Eddie is the allocated drudge in Section D to work for Mistress and Master Hilton, with her flatmate Dora. Both Dora and Eddie will work for the same Mangarian family, one as the child caregiver and the other as an assistant to the cook. Dora and Etty have to report to Madam Miriam. She is the head drudge and the housekeeper for the Mangarian family. Dora and Etty do not get along. Dora tries to sabotage Etty in order to be the childminder. Mistress and Master Hilton's daughter's name is Larissa, and she insists that Etty and Dora call her Little Miss. Larissa will decide which of the drudges will have the privilege of being her caregiver, while her parents are not around. Larissa is very sick. It is a chronic condition. Juliet thinks about Kitty and her plan to get arrested. Kitty is awaiting trial for burglary, after which she will be taken to the laboratory to be experimented on. Mistress and Madam Miriam, we see there that their relationship is close. Mistress has a pet name for her, Mary. Mistress and her husband, there is tension between them. Etty notices that when Mistress smiles to him are not real. The Mangarian family and workers at number 3 consist of Mistress, Master Halton, Little Miss, Madam Miriam, Cook, Dora, Etty, and a few other servants. Chapter 12, The Party. Kitty's trial takes place the next day. Madam Miriam, Master Halton, and Little Miss and Dora continue to be harsh towards Juliet. They aggravate her. Mistress appears to be interested in Etty and her opinions. Mistress is the guardian of heritage and culture, so she shares Etty's love of trees. They both use my when they refer to their trees, showing a sense of possession and a common link between them. Juliet wears a mask when talking to Mistress. She does not let Mistress know her true feelings and thoughts. The Mangarians throw a party, and Etty is on drudge duty, serving them. The Mangarians talk about the upcoming elections, and they argue over candidates and entitlement. Master Halton offers up his wife's position in exchange for keeping his position as the guardian of science and technology, without talking to her about this decision first. A crack in their relationship is exposed as they argue in front of their guests. Nicholas is at the party, and he is the son of Bartholomew, a guardian for justice and peace. Etty discovers that he is going to testify at the trial tomorrow and give evidence against her and Kitty. Etty is sickened that he has to testify against them, but she understands that he cannot go against his family's wishes. Nicholas now knows where Etty lives, where she works, and who she works for. Etty then feels vulnerable. Chapter 13, The Trial. Juliet has a day off of work. Cook is harsh with Etty and gives her many tasks to do before she can leave. Etty overhears Mistress vent about losing her job as guardian of culture and heritage. Mistress tries to speak to Juliet, but Juliet hides her true feelings. Etty uses her credits to get into the viewing gallery of the courthouse. She sees Kitty, who is in a terrible condition and is distraught at the sight. Kitty has been tortured. She is a bag of bones, and the news trader's sketch shows that her fingernails have been removed. Festus Ford's testimony states that there were 3 people involved in the crime, but Kitty lies to protect Etty and pleads guilty to the accusations. Nicholas is called to testify. He also confirms that nobody else was involved. He does this to protect Etty. Kitty is sentenced to 5 years in Savage City. The people in the courthouse rage about the lenient punishment that she received. After leaving the courtroom, Handler Xavier asks Etty to help him find information about Master Halton, Nicholas, and his family. Juliet refuses and makes Handler Xavier furious. He thinks she is a horrible person and that she acts accordingly. Master and the Mangarian 5th family have something to do with the experiments being conducted in the lab. Etty is determined to figure out things and save Kitty's life. Chapter 14, Porridge. Master and Mistress leave their home to go to an election campaign. While they are away, Edyth plans to A. Get into Master's study and look for clues, B. To enter his library and look at his books, and C. To get close to Nicholas and find out more about him. Edyth poisons the porridge that will be eaten by the servants and Larissa. Larissa then refuses to eat it, not knowing that it was poisoned. The servants get food poisoning and are unable to work. This gives Juliet an opportunity to sneak into Master's library and study. Edyth steals one of his books and she discovers a Drudge's number on a piece of skin and accidentally breaks the glass container. Edyth checks on Little Miss and sees that she is very ill, even though she didn't have any of the contaminated porridge. At this point, Juliet sees the extent of Larissa's illness and why she needs a caregiver. Juliet cares for Larissa and takes her to the secret garden outside. Juliet tells her fairy tales, and they save a hardy-dot chick that had fallen out of the tree. Edyth and Little Miss become friends. Juliet realizes that she can take advantage of this relationship with Little Miss to save Kitty. Chapter 15, The Laboratory. Dora is accused of making everyone sick by contaminating the porridge. Juliet is chosen as Larissa's caregiver. Larissa is being taken to the lab and she insists that Juliet go with her. Master Halton works in the laboratory. He is the guardian of science and technology. Meat and vegetables are created by genetic modification and artificial processes in the lab. Edyth discovers that experiments are being done on young children, and the orphan warden is paid to hand over the children in exchange for credits. Larissa is examined and samples of her hair, cells, skin, nails, and spinal fluid are taken. The objective is to find a cure for her illness. Edyth feels protective over Little Miss. She says, "I want to hurt them, and my fists are ready at my side." As they are about to leave the lab, they see Handler Xavier, who is selling some orphans, and him and Mistress share a glance that suggests that they know each other. They also see Nicholas, who is at the building to see his father, who is the guardian of justice and peace. Chapter 16, Apple Juice. Mistress's mother, the president of Mangaria, visits their home. She intends to finalize the marriage between her granddaughter, Larissa, and Nicholas, the son of the guardian of justice and peace. Juliet and Nicholas have an opportunity to speak. Nicholas reveals that he has tried everything he could to remove the mark from his spine, and that he has been tracking Juliet since the first moment he saw her. When she played the monster water in the game with Handler Xavier and Kitty on the beach, he was the locust who tried to catch Kitty. Nicholas reveals that he has a plan to run away and wants Juliet to go with him. She agrees to run away with him, but on the condition that he helps her save Kitty. A cure has been developed that could cure Larissa. It has been tested on many humans, but has only worked on one, Kitty. Chapter 7, Deathbed Confession. Handler Xavier visits number 3. The orphan warden is Madame Miriam's sister. They have not spoken for 15 years. The orphan warden is dying and wants to make peace with Miriam. She asks to see Juliet as well. In Slum City, riots are breaking out. The people are getting sick from food coming from the laboratory. They believe they are being poisoned. The orphan warden makes a confession. 15 years ago, Mistress and Handler Xavier had a relationship, and Mistress was pregnant with his child. Miriam sent Mistress and the orphan warden to the river to take care of the problem. But the orphan warden could not drown the newborn baby. Instead, she took the child to the orphanage and filed it as an abandoned child left at the door. Mistress then was matched with Master Halton as a fate mate, and Handler Xavier was matched with a woman who had then passed away. That child grew up in an orphanage, and her name is Juliet 7. Chapter 18, The Procedure. The Guardian of Justice and Peace, Bartholomew, discusses a procedure with Master Halton that will be disguised as a vaccine, a gene extraction which removes disobedience, the savage gene, ultimately turning the traders into obedient zombies. Juliet and Nicholas plan to save Kitty and escape. The procedure to save Larissa at Kitty's expense cannot take place at the laboratory, so Master Halton decides to have it done at their house in number 3. Before the procedure begins, Juliet convinces Larissa to meet and thank Kitty. Nicholas, a locust, is ordered to escort Kitty safely to number 3. He then helps Juliet carry Kitty to Larissa's room, where they all are wearing surgical masks. When they exit the room, Nicholas and Kitty carry Juliet out and lay her on the stretcher. Juliet pretends to be Kitty. Kitty escapes the house, and Juliet is about to be anesthetized, and at that moment she sees a bright light and hears an explosion. She then becomes unconscious. Chapter 19, The Golden Goose. When Juliet wakes up, she realizes that she has been captured by Handler Xavier and me from the beauty parlor. They remove the surgical masks thinking that they saved Kitty, but are furious when they see that they actually saved Juliet. Edyth was separated from Kitty and Nicholas. Me, from the beauty parlor, reveals that the explosion was orchestrated by the resistance organization when they found out that Kitty was going to be operated on, used, then dumped. The explosion was a distraction that would allow Kitty and the doctors to escape. The doctors were going to be paid to remove the marks of all the members of the organization. The machine is solar powered and is operating at a low capacity due to the cloudy weather. Xavier lets her go and gives her a list of names to delete on the machine. Edyth goes to the river to meet Nicholas and Kitty. Kitty wants to return to the organization with Edyth and continue the resistance against the Mungarians, but Nicholas begs Edyth to run away with him. Chapter 20, The Machine. Nicholas and Juliet go to the Department of Justice and Peace. Nicholas pretends to arrest Edyth and take her in. They pass his father's office and overhear him looking for information about his kidnapped son. When entering the machine room, Nicholas sets off the fire alarm to evacuate the building. Nicholas removes the names on the list from the machine. He watched his father erase the names of people who have died from the machine, so he knows exactly what to do. The machine marks the people on the list as deceased on the system. Chapter 21, The Journey. Edyth prepares to run away with Nicholas. She goes to the tree museum for the last time. When she arrives, Mistress is there. Larissa blinded the hardy-dot chick, Princess Fanny, in the hopes that it would tell them where Edyth was. This is proof that Larissa truly loves Edyth. Mistress reveals that Master Hilton died in the explosion. Mistress explains the circumstances of her birth and their separation. Mistress tries to persuade Juliet to turn Nicholas in, so that his father will agree to find a cure to save Larissa's life. Juliet refuses, and Mistress shows her true character by trying to hit Juliet. Juliet realizes that Mistress only cares about her other child, Larissa, who is dying. This is confirmation that she has no reason to stay. Edyth cares for her sister Larissa deeply and decides to make the sacrifice leaving Nicholas behind. Etty returns to the boat and decides to run away without Nicholas. She sets fires to all the boats so that Nicholas cannot follow her. Rita tracks Juliet to the boat and has been waiting for her there. He wants to go with her. This is how the mark ends, and I don't know about you guys, but I was not expecting that ending. I pretty much could not sleep for a few days. I had so many questions, but thank goodness for the second book, The Reject. You should definitely read it. I hope this video has helped you to revise or to at least freshen your memory about the mark. Thanks for watching.